Hey, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of We're Not Fine.
We're so happy to be here, and we're so happy to see you.
Can you see them? Because I can't.
Oh, I see you. I think they know I can see them. That's why they're listening.
Do you see dead people?
Rapt attention.
Oof, okay. So, we sometimes come across questions that we've both kind of explored in our practices, but this one, and it's love addiction. We're going to talk about love addiction. And what's interesting about this is I remember when I first started working in this field, 30 years ago, I remember there was a psychiatrist who used to come and consult at our clinic that I worked at, and he was writing a book on sex addiction. And I remember thinking, how can there be sex addiction when there's nothing ingested or nothing consumed that creates kind of this physiological response? But having now been in practice and being wiser, I realize that whether it's gambling, sex, love, clothes, purchasing, internet, we've covered internet and cyber shit.
Yes.
So the thing, yes, we have.
Is that
But
the
there's a
new
lot of
thing?
different addictions.
When you can't find a word, it's just going to be shit.
That's usually not my choice word. But here's what I think about that. Like, I've now realized that there is a physiological response that we have. Addiction is oftentimes, and this is for sure not a very thorough explanation of it, but if you are avoiding other things in your life and not taking care of the things that you are responsible for, whether it's parenting or going to work or taking care of your home or being financially responsible and paying your bills, like all of those things might indicate you might be an addict of sorts, whether that's, and multiple addictions, comorbid, multiple addictions can happen too. So I think there's a part of this that, are you withdrawing from friends and family? Are you unable to complete those tasks? Are you having a hard time letting go of those things that are causing you a struggle? So whether that's dating and love or sex or whatever it is, and in this case, we have a person who wrote in about love addiction, and you're going to read that. But I think this is a very complicated issue, but it actually, and you and I both agree on this, like we immediately go down the attachment theory road, which we're going to talk about a little bit.
But we weren't
today.
in full alignment, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But then we wouldn't even allow ourselves to really have the full conversation because it was getting so juicy that we were like, let's stop talking. Let's save it for the podcast. Let's keep it organic, because I was like, this is anxious attachment and low self-esteem. And you're like, it's avoidant attachment. And we were like,
And then, well, you don't know this, I think it's anxious avoidant.
Was this while I was in the bathroom? Did you cheat on me and like go online?
Nope. I didn't cheat on you. I just had another clinician come in and we conversed about it because you were in there for what?
Oh my God.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. This podcast also does not establish a standard of care, doctor-patient, or client relationship. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. And because each person is so unique, all listeners are encouraged to connect with counseling and medical professionals for assistance with their personal journey. All people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect the privacy of those involved.
Welcome to We're Not Fine. I'm Dr. Talia Jackson.
And I'm Doug Jensen. We thank you for listening every week to our deep and thought-provoking conversations about relationships.
So I agree, addiction, like hunger, drive, unmet need, but if you're addicted to sex, are you really addicted to sex, or is it connection and the love? Is it really? It is love. It's connection. It's like
I don't know.
emptiness.
And by the way, when you have it in that capacity, when you are seeking love in that desperate way, that's not love.
It's not love. It's anxious attachment.
It's anxious. And I think I see so many people who are like getting possessed or jealous in their relationships.
Yes.
And that's not free love, and you're not getting something you need if that's the case. And that's a very complicated conversation, and we're not going to get to all of that today.
No,
but when you feel that desperation, and I see it a lot.
That's right.
Like, calm down. This is not the relationship. You're an anxious person. calm down.
Right.
You're
And we
never
know
gonna,
easier said than done, right?
yep.
And we're
Yeah,
going
for
to,
sure. I've
and
been
we're,
there.
but
Been there.
no,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And we're going to touch on what not anxious attachment, what love addiction looks like
Yep.
when you're in a relationship and when you're single, because it looks a little bit different so that you can maybe recognize signs. But yes, one of our amazing listeners wrote in, I'm struggling with love addiction and a fear of abandonment.
Which is just
There
right
it
in the
is.
attachment theory. It's
There
right there.
it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I love my boyfriend a lot and I love being connected to him. We're in a long distance relationship, but when we're in the same city, we meet daily. We watch movies, we eat, we chill. We're both 23 and jobless right now. His situation is difficult as he's the only man in his family and he needs to earn quickly to support his mom. Oh, I see. And deal with some legal property issues. He asked me to stop fighting and focus on our individual goals until we both get jobs. Oh, they're fighting a lot. However, I've developed a form of love addiction toward him with so little communication. I fear being alone and abandoned. I struggle to focus on my career and personal goals. This is exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
All I do is sit and think about the situation and cry, constantly dwelling on the past. Meanwhile, he's preparing for his future. When he has time, he talks to me and manages his property issues. For the past 50 days, I've been fighting with him daily and not giving him the space to grow. How insightful is this? I don't know if it's a woman or a man, but how incredibly insightful. I want to help, but people around me, family and friends, are tired of my constant emotional neediness. I can't afford therapy, but I'm deeply struggling. For the past 5 years, I've craved his attention and attachment. I've become mentally and emotionally dependent on him. He's a great man and knows his priorities and boundaries, but I'm afraid I'm feeling incredibly lonely. I want to change this pattern, but I don't know how. And lately, it's feeling urgent. Do or die.
This is really
Amazing human.
This is really painful, and I feel your anxiety, and I feel your insecurity, and I feel your jealousy, potential jealousy, and I feel your kind of desperation to not feel this way anymore. And really, the goal when you are anxious or avoidant or anxious avoidant in your attachment style, which we can get into a little bit, you know, what I find is that avoidant people seek that affirmation and love, and they seek someone's attention so desperately that they will do anything. They will love bomb. They will do whatever they need to do to get that person in their lives, but are not capable of true intimacy. And so find a way to sabotage it toward the end, which feels like a total mindfuck to the person on the other side. So I think the goal is always, though, and that creates anxiety for people who are otherwise even secure. And I don't know if this person writing in was secure at some point in their kind of identity and their self-esteem, and they were kind of just naturally enjoying the relationship and were allowing that freedom and space to happen, which is what I think love is about. You don't want to control someone. You don't want to possess someone. And on the other side, you don't want to be claimed. You don't want to be owned. You are nobody's property. Don't lose yourself in a relationship. It will not endure. I have not seen one relationship endure where someone just kind of submits and lets the other person tell them who to be and becomes somebody's possession. It's not a healthy relationship, in my opinion. So when I take a look at, what's going on here, you're becoming more anxious. And I don't know what's going on for him. So at some point, this goes back to the basic premise. If I were in your shoes, I would absolutely say, can we have a chat? I don't want to fight anymore. We have fought every day for 50 days is what she said. By the way, the stress of not being employed is rough. It is about money. It's about identity. It's about, I don't know if you two have college degrees, if you don't have college degrees. Either way, being unemployed is not fun. It's not fun to not have income coming in. It's not fun to not feel productive. It's not fun to not have a career being built for a lot of people. So I don't know how that experience is for you, but it's probably making you a little bit more insecure and not quite right. Whereas if we have great things happening, I was just talking with someone yesterday about this. She has a great career. She takes care of herself. She's done some therapy. She's done her work. This is not a client. It's actually a friend. This person basically said, I'm stable in my life, so I can walk away from relationships that don't give me what I need. I was so impressed, right? Really impressed. I know. So really impressive. And so I do think in this situation, you have to let him know what it is that's going on for you. You have to say, I am not feeling connected. I think the reason we're fighting is I just don't have security in this relationship right now. And what you said was he did say that he wanted you two to focus on your individual goals, which if you're in a relationship and working on the relationship, I think there can be this kind of mutual support, and you can support individual goals while encouraging the couple goals. I also am a little bit struck by a couple things. The only man in his family. Of course, I struggle a little bit with gender stereotypes.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of can't stand it. So when you said that, I'm like, if there's women in that family too, they need to be equally accountable and responsible for the family stuff. And I know some cultures are different about that, but that's my belief system, that men and women are equal people, and non-binary people are equal as well. So there's a part of this that, this taking care of his mom and taking care of supporting his mom. I have a big question about, like, when does that end, or does it end? Like, it may not be something that has an end to it. We've talked about mama's boys before on this podcast.
I have a friend, Cass, that every time one of those videos on the Mama's Boy gets posted, she just laughs at me.
She said I'm dead.
Dead. Because she knows I have
dead.
2 boys, and I'm a Jewish mom, and I'm a little obsessive, and my boys are totally Mama's boys, and I'm creating little beautiful monsters. I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. But she sees
Good
right
luck
through it.
to those 2 boys. Love them both, actually. So what I want to say about this is I think you need to just be really clear on this. And you're fighting, for the past 50 days, you're fighting with him daily, you said. That is so painful to hear. That is the worst. Like, I don't know about you, but when I fight with someone that I really love, I can't do it. I don't sustain that very long. I got to, like, resolve it. I got to get through it, because if you're in my inner circle now in my life, I can't stand strain. It just makes me not sleep. It makes me anxious. It makes me, like, I have my own abandonment stuff maybe in that circumstance. Like, what's going to happen if we don't resolve this? And I do have some anxious attachment stuff from my past. So, and I've managed that. And I think in terms of intimate relationships and friendships, I do okay. But I think there's a part of this that when it comes up, I have to say, I'm not okay. I don't feel okay. I'd like to resolve this. You have to do the same. You have to go to this boyfriend of yours, and you have to be able to say, I am not feeling great about this. We have to figure out something else. And I think you probably need some clarification, maybe validation of what this relationship is. I mean, he can work on his own individual goals and be committed to you, but he needs to be really clear on what that is. And, like, this is where love languages comes in. Like, the way that you feel loved is probably some of that words of affirmation. I don't think your gifts being an issue, but I think there's a point at which I don't necessarily know that you're a love addict as much as this relationship is not giving you what you need.
And maybe making her love addicted when she wouldn't actually be.
That's what happens when someone can't give you something. They absolutely make you fucking more anxious, and it's not okay. That's a cycle that's really, really shitty, and it doesn't feel good. I also tell my clients who have histories of fear of abandonment or anxious attachment or insecurity in their relationships, I tell them to be upfront about it. Like, find a way when you're in the first dating experiences, say, so I've had a couple rough spots in my life, and I don't tend to necessarily process conflict well when we have it. I'm going to do my best. But if you find me kind of going off the rails, just say, okay, you mentioned this before. Like, be upfront about what your baggage is that you bring to that relationship, because we all have it.
I love it. I mean,
right?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And a couple of things that you said that I was like, oh, that hits. But I just feel like when you were saying I would just want to resolve it, like I don't want to be fighting. Yeah. I have a feeling that a part of the love addiction and the anxious attachment is she feels like in some compulsive rabbit hole, kind of like, what do they call it? Perseverating, like this compulsive way that she is trying to solve a problem or find connection, because the problem is chasing the reassurance and the security and the connection. So if the hunger for the connection is there and she's not feeling connected, then it's a constant fight to try to feel connected, but then the only connection you have is bad.
Yeah.
And that's heartbreaking. I wanted to talk, so like a little OCD even maybe with the just like the compulsive need to solve the problem, which just feels terrible.
You know what I love about what you just said? Like the comorbidity of symptoms, as well as how, like, what we're doing is we're trying to sort this out. And I love when two clinicians can kind of say, well, what about this? And what do you think about this? So this is very analytical in our approach today.
Well, then I'm going to go further to say a part of it is also regulating your nervous system and
Always.
putting the blame in the right place. So if we are struggling with this feeling of withdrawal, if it's drugs, connection, I'm going to argue that right now it's connection and reassurance. But if we're struggling with that sense of withdrawal and then we blame our partner for making us feel a certain way, that is very different than saying, I'm experiencing withdrawal. I'm experiencing insecurity. I need reassurance, but it's not because you're making me feel that way. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I want to talk about avoidant attachment for a second again in regards to this. And I don't know that this guy is, or this person that you're with is necessarily having this experience, but avoidant people do this very clear sort of, again, love bombing, or they do everything they can to get that person in their lives, but they're not really capable because of their damage and trauma that they may have experienced growing up, or their emotions were not safe to express. And so they learned very much not to do that because it wasn't safe. And doing so now feels like they're at risk of rejection and criticism and judgment and abandonment. So it's interesting that you're describing those symptoms, but you two are in this hodgepodge, I think, of avoidant and attachment. Like you're not getting what
insecure, or like anxious and avoidant.
What did I say?
Avoidant and attachment. But you forgot to just add in shit.
Anxious. Avoidant and anxious. Like this cycle is going on. And I think you two need to sit down and you need to talk about your relationship. I'm going to be very honest. This is when people contact us for relationship work. They can't quite figure out what the hell is going on. I don't know how to manage this.
Right, but it doesn't feel good.
And
like,
once
I feel bad all the time.
I feel bad all the time, and I'm arguing for 50 days, which again, I keep perseverating in that part of this because arguing with someone that I love for 50 days in a row, there's something not working.
No.
Right?
And especially when you know that the argument is like, I need more connection, but she's creating that which she fears the most.
Yeah.
And we did want to talk just for a few moments about what love addiction might look like if you are in a relationship and what it might look like if you're single.
Yeah.
Just so you can recognize the signs. So if you're in a relationship, what it might look like, even if you're not long distance, even if you live in the same city, but maybe, I don't know, if you don't live together, or maybe it's just when you're separated, when you're at work. But the idea is you're constantly checking your phone. If there isn't the right tone or the right message at the right time, you're going to start to feel these really uncomfortable feelings, weird and anxious, and you're going to be reaching out to them to try to feel that reassurance. You can't really go about your day and compartmentalize the relationship. It's constantly in your mind that you want them to be thinking about you as often as you're thinking about them. You're feeling alone and insecure, even though you might be in a beautiful, connected relationship. And also, like, you might find yourself feeling like the pursuer and they're the distancer, which feels terrible. And also, this is what we were talking about, is sometimes if you are the more secure one and they're more anxious, you're going to find the exact opposite, that you're finding yourself wanting to be like, can you just give me a moment to breathe? I'm literally living my life. I will come home, give you the biggest kiss, make you feel prioritized, but this does not feel good. Like, nothing I do feels like it's reassuring enough for you.
The thing about being in a relationship versus single, there's very big similarities in both. You're still feeling like out of sorts. You're still feeling anxious. You're still feeling unsettled. You're feeling like, and I realized that I took notes and I lost them somewhere. So I'm going to just talk about this because it's the same thing. You're constantly craving something. So you do everything you can. You spend a great deal of time reading self-help books or relationship books, or you are trying to make yourself look a certain way, or you're going to the gym every day, or you're buying new clothes, or you're doing what you think that people will find attractive about you. You're constantly looking at different apps, dating apps, to try to find, the person that you're looking for. And you spend a great deal of time, an excessive amount of time, doing that. There is nothing wrong with wanting a relationship, by the way. There's nothing wrong with wanting to resolve loneliness and want to make a family happen if that's what you're looking for, or just have that companionship that happens. There's nothing wrong with that. But we're talking about being so in that moment where you are avoiding the things that are important to you and you are disregarding family, friends, and the balance in your life in order to do this, but you're constantly consumed with finding someone, and you are probably going on dates with people you shouldn't. I think one of the things that I've noticed with some people, I'm like, why would you go on a date with someone that you saw a picture of and you're like, that's not even close to my type. Move on. Like, I don't think you need to waste time, right? And I'm so narrow in who I find attractive in these days. And so,
It's just me right now.
That's right.
But also, like, what strikes me about what you said is that it's the time we're spending, the amount of space it's taking up in our heads, and even just like the way you're describing the lack of balance and not knowing who you are. Like, sometimes we think of ourselves as a half of a whole. Like there's this huge missing piece. But even in these situations, it just feels like you're so much less than a half of a whole. Your entire being is consumed by another that is making you feel either enough or not enough. And I just wanted to suggest, I know you're holding your breaths. I don't want you to turn purple, but I want to encourage you to fill that up from within. Like, date yourself, love yourself. Have you lost yourself? Are you still an interesting, rich, dynamic person? Would you want to date
Or have you
yourself?
ever been? Right?
Well, it's time, friends.
Can I tell you, do you remember what I was holding my breath about is, I remember when I was young at the drugstore at the Ben Franklin in the town that I grew up in, they had these two matching necklaces and they were kind of cracked.
The best friends or like the two halves of a whole.
I don't love the concept. Like, it's kind of a socialized romantic notion that I'm finding my other half.
Like my soulmate.
Well, soulmate I believe in.
Right.
But that's different. Like, if you're already whole and then you have a soulmate, like, you get to like...
That's the dream. Like that.
That is
you're
my dream.
Whole.
Yeah.
And the partner is the cherry on top because you have a rich, interesting life.
And I know that I don't need to say this because I say it a lot on this podcast, but my friends are my soulmates.
You're welcome. He's welcome. Oh God, not this again. You guys, I hope you found that valuable. And we can be found on social media for now until it's banned and until we're all cleansed of our addictions. But Dr. Talia Jackson, Douglas L. Jensen with an EN, and We're Not Fine Pod. We're also on TikTok. We're Not Fine.
We're on
We are
YouTube.
on YouTube. We're Not Fine.
Yeah, the YouTubes are fun because people oftentimes have said, I don't listen. I mean, I listen to you and I don't see you.
Doug picks out our outfits.
I do, actually. I picked out several today.
And I was like, do we really want to be so matchy? And he was like, absolutely.
Dude, we have a total purple match coming up on an upcoming episode. It matches exactly.
Oh, wait. Are you sure this isn't it?
I'm positive it's not.
Oh, this is more blue lavender. Okay.
It's blues.
Purple next.
We're also we'renotfine.com. Go to our website and feel free to ask us anything. We are here for the taking, and we will address your question. We can identify who you are. We don't have to identify who you are, but please go to we'renotfine.com. There's a place to put in your question and submit that to our group, and we will answer anything and everything. There's nothing that we're afraid of.
Nothing. And subscribe, send us to your friends, write a review if you really love us or if you really hate us. Don't write a review if you hate us. But still
I think you
send
still
it to
write it
friends.
because one of the things, like I got a negative on YouTube about something I said. I love it. Bring it on.
We'll take it.
We want to
take
talk
all
about
engagement.
Yeah, all engagement. It's all worthy of discussion. This is what life is. We're human beings with an experience of just processing everything that goes on for us.
We love you.
And growing.
See you next time.
Take care, everybody. All right, bye.